Hi, and welcome to the Kelly Kitley podcast, America's Social Worker Unfiltered, where every week we have hopeful, honest, and deeply human conversations with change makers. And today I am so excited to have Niro Feliciano, who is a psychotherapist, licensed clinical social worker, author, Today Show contributor, columnist, and mom of four. And I feel like we have been living parallel lives for the last 20 some years. And I am just so excited because we're usually two ships passing in the night at NBC. And I just love your message. And Niro has a new book that is out, All is CALMish: How to Feel Less Frantic and More Festive During the Holidays. And the timing of this is just perfect. So
Mm.
thank you so much for saying yes.
Oh, my pleasure. And when you were reading that description of me, you could have just swapped our names out and it would have been the same. So yes, yeah, we've been leading parallel lives and happy to be here just to talk with you.
Yeah, it
So
does.
fun.
Like people have said about your writing, it feels like you're sitting down with a friend having coffee. And I
Mm.
know listeners are going to feel that way today too, with your nuggets of hope. And you're so practical in the advice that you give. And I have to say, I read your book. This book won't make you happy.
The first book,
The
yes.
first book, and all about contentment. And I
Mhm.
refer to it often in terms of just
Mm.
mantras that I picked up and like placing my feet on the floor and just being. And that is something that I think personally and professionally we can both speak to just in terms of the
Mhm.
clients that we work
Mhm.
with and managing motherhood and partnership. And
All the
I
things.
I can't believe you wrote a second book. I wrote one and I said never again. Now,
It's
can
that's
you?
funny you say that because a friend of mine was like, "Can you believe you wrote two books?" And I said, "No, like this is not a me thing to do. I can barely like find my pants in my closet on a good day." So how we got to book two, I don't know. And I wrote in that book that I felt like it was a miracle. I wrote in my acknowledgments because I was going through such a tough year
Mhm.
when that happened, but
And you
I'm just
postponed the
grateful.
launch, which
Yeah.
made me feel I was so proud of you because I was like,
Mm.
yes, you said no
Yep,
because family came first. And
it did.
so, can you just talk a little bit about that journey of writing a second book? What made you
Hmm.
decide to do it? Why you pressed pause and why now?
Yeah, so this second book, actually, the content of this, talking about finding joy, finding contentment during the holidays, came before my first book, the content, because I gave that talk about contentment during the holidays to a group of 600 women one year. And after that talk, people came up to me and said, "Do you have a book? Where can I hear more about this? And how do I find contentment with all the crap that's going on in all of our lives all the time?" And I think we can relate to that now, especially in the world.
Absolutely.
So we did the first book, which was just kind of general life, finding contentment, joy, all of those things, and why we're not content as a culture. And then after that book, my publisher said, "Would you think about writing that holiday book?" And I said, "Sure, this will be easy after writing the first book." And
Mhm.
oh my gosh, never say that. Never say that because you put that energy into the world and it doesn't always work out like that. But what happened during that writing process was that one of my kids became really um, I'll say ill. I mean, it is a mental illness when you're dealing with anxiety. And she specifically had a phobia, and she was only 9 years old. And it got to the point where d- didn't want to engage in her regular life, going to sports, going to hang out with friends, and then ultimately going to school.
Mhm.
And me as a therapist, which I was very grateful for during that time, I knew, okay, we need to deal with this head on.
Mhm.
And I need to be a big part of supporting her in addition to the therapists that she was seeing.
Mhm.
But sometimes it would take, an hour and a half just to get her from the parking lot into the school and not even go to class, but to remain in the building. So that became almost like a part-time job, full-time job. And on those days, I didn't even know, could I go to work? Was she going to be home? So
Mhm.
for that reason, I was realizing I'm not making my writing deadlines. And I said to my publisher, hey, can you, what do you think about pushing this out a year? And they were so gracious. And my editor, who I did the first book with, said, you know, Nero, I believe nothing is wasted and everything will happen at the right time. And I so appreciated that, you know, when someone can give you that perspective in that moment and show you that grace. And I believe now that this is the right time, you know. And then she also said, you know, now come to think of it, you probably don't want to publish a book in an election year in November. No one probably is going to pay attention to it. So I
Mhm.
think we need calm now more than ever,
Mm.
and calm-ish would be a win if
Yeah.
we can even get to that right
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
Just amidst everybody's normal life stress. I mean, everyone operates at a very full bandwidth
Mhm.
just day to day. And you know this as a mom of four. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful that we did get to push it out a year. And I actually wrote about some of the challenges we were going through in the book. And it made me realize like those things don't stop for the holidays. Grief doesn't stop for the holidays. Divorce doesn't stop. Sadness, illness. So it helped me to really embrace the perspective that joy is a choice. And having to choose it myself, I was able to write about it certainly more authentically.
Mm. And how does your child feel about the fact that you are sharing a piece of that? Because I know, I'm
Hmm.
very vocal too about just practicing what I preach and life
Yes.
experiences and checking in with our kids and making sure. I mean, obviously I know you did that, but I'm curious to know how she felt about it.
Hmm. So, you know, she was very open with me, and I always ask my kids, my husband, permission before I share content
Hmm.
so publicly. And at the time where the edits were going to be turned in, she was doing really well. And she still is. And she,
Hmm.
I will say, knock on wood, you know, thank God she is past this phobia. I mean, I'm sure there'll be other things that we all deal with in our
Yep.
life, but
Hmm.
this, I will say, I mean, she really overcame it and is leading a very full, normal life. So from that point, she said, please share it. And then when the book came to our house, she said, I know what chapter I'm going to read, you know, and it was the one all about her. There are definitely things, you know, so after she got better, two of my other kids went through their stuff because these days, and I will say this really honestly, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know one family who does not have one kid who's been touched with a mental health issue these days. I feel like
Absolutely.
every family has gone through something with one child,
Hmm.
at least that has struggled with mental health for a season. And it is true, you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. So
Hmm.
we went through it. I'm grateful that they went through it consecutively and not at the same time. I was like, thank you guys for feeling that
Whack-a-mole.
out. Right.
Whack-a-mole. They
Yeah. Spreading out your issues, right? Because you
because
only
they
know
planned that.
yeah, right? Your mama can only handle so much at once.
Mm.
But it was a good year and a half that we went through.
Mhm.
And I feel for the families who are going through it. But she was very forthcoming at that
Mhm.
point in sharing. And some of the things my other kids went through, I don't think I'll ever share, not anytime soon.
Mhm.
So, you know I have a little bit of discernment about that, and they've
Mhm.
been great about it.
Mm. And you just launched a kid into college.
I
How does that
know.
feel?
Well, you're the pro, so tell
Trial
me.
by fire.
And it doesn't get easier, right? I can see it getting harder as more kids leave me and the
Mhm.
house gets emptier.
Yeah, and the family dynamics change. Sure.
Yeah, they do. And I will say this one, I had a couple days where I was sad. It very much transient. It comes and it goes, but she was so ready to go and she is so happy that I mean, it's true.
Mhm.
You just want them to be happy. When they're happy,
Right.
you're happy. So
Mhm. Mhm.
it's been great and so fun to see just her story develop in her life, just of
Mhm.
her faith and just the confirmation that yes, this is where she was meant to be, because that's something I always say, that I always ask for the right doors to open and the wrong ones to close. And I firmly believe they're going to end up where they're meant to be if they do their part in the process. And we're seeing
Yeah.
that now all come to fruition. So it's really a beautiful thing to witness.
I mean, I am just in awe because your faith like radiates through this screen.
Oh,
And I
oh,
told you
thank
that
you.
before. And I think that, for people to find any kind of spirituality in terms of something
Mm.
bigger than ourself, whatever that is for
Mm-hmm.
somebody. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you can you speak about where this faith came from? I know,
Mm-hmm.
you have strong relationships with your parents and your siblings, and you're first generation
Yes.
American, right? Your
Yeah.
parents are from Sri
Sri Lanka.
Lanka.
Mm-hmm.
I
You have a
mean,
good
does that
memory.
play a role? I mean, I just have so many questions. I'm always like,
Yeah.
how are you so built and grounded in your faith?
Mm. I will say like it to be to be born into a family that has a genuine faith, not like a okay, these are the rules and you have to follow it, but actually who've had spiritual encounters with God is a gift because we've seen it firsthand. I mean, I've seen miracles in my house growing up. So, my parents came here from Sri Lanka and there was a huge civil war in Sri Lanka in the 80s, and they came in the 70s planning to work, save their money, and then go back to
Mhm.
the country. And when the war broke out, actually, we were about a week away from going on a trip there. And had we gone, we would have also been in that civil war. And my mom said, "You girls probably would have died there because you were not used to third world, you know."
Wow.
And what actually prevented us from going was my dad. My mom felt a lump on his neck. They're both doctors. And she said, let's just get this checked out. And it ended up being thyroid cancer. So, because of that cancer, we did not go. And because of that cancer, my parents brought like 15 families out of Sri Lanka, literally saved their lives. And now they are generations here. We're seeing the third generation here, and they're all doing really well, but they would not be alive if not for my parents. So we grew up with this, you can call it a mantra. It comes out of scripture, but it's a belief that God will use everything in your life for good if you allow it. And really, if you look for that perspective and if you trust God with these situations,
Mhm,
even the hard ones,
mhm.
we saw lives saved because my dad got cancer, you know? So when you grew up with those stories,
Yeah.
then it is easier to see it in your own life when it is happening. And for me, I'd say my faith really grew. I went to boarding school when I was 14. And
Mhm.
it was not something my parents wanted me to do, but I live in Connecticut and I knew like smart kids go to boarding school and I want to go. And when I got there, I was like terribly, terribly homesick and I cried for months and I called them and I was like, why did you send me here? And they said, you wanted to go here. And I said, why did you listen to a 14-year-old? What's wrong with you people? Um, but that's really where I discovered my faith. When I didn't have my parents there every
Mhm,
day, it's what I turned to. And I knew like I wasn't alone. I was meant to be here. And
mhm,
to this day, I have stories of things that came out of that experience there and then so forth in my journey. So for me and my family, I mean, we go to church. We're not religious about going to church because we have four kids who played sports,
mhm,
and
mhm,
that gets in the way. But I've always encouraged my kids to talk to God and to read and to bring their thoughts to God and really try and have a personal encounter. And I'm grateful they really all have. And I've always never wanted to push it on them. I always said, ask the questions, see for yourself, see what happens,
mhm,
and very much talk about the God stories in my life. I mean, the Today Show being one of them. I went there once for my book, and 3.5 years later, I'm still there, and I still can't explain it. Like I watch those, I know what you think, but I watch those segments back, and I'm like, this was not that great. Like, why are they? Why do they still ask me back? That was not a coherent sentence, but there is something that happens when I go that I feel like is beyond me. Like you said, they feel that,
mhm. Yeah.
and I can't take credit for it. I'm grateful that it's there.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so
And
lots of
that
stories.
has always wowed me because I am
Oh,
constantly pitching.
I know,
And
but I want
you're
you to
like,
be on.
well, no, I did the mom wine culture. That was
Yes,
my first
yes,
national
yeah,
segment, like
yep,
7 years ago, and that
right.
catapulted the experience to be able
Yes,
to be a contributor on a
all the
lot of different
time.
platforms.
Yep.
But, you know, and you also you're married to a Puerto Rican man, correct?
Yes, yes,
Multicultural family.
yes.
Do you come from the same religious background,
hmm
upbringing? Are you aligned in how you want to raise the kids?
We did not come from the same background. He grew up Catholic. And so it's a little different than kind of getting married to someone who had no faith at all. Like I didn't, he knew that God was there. He just didn't know how to connect.
Mhm.
So I think it
Except
was
at church,
never,
probably, as a
except in
Catholic.
church, like in Catholic,
Right.
right, exactly. And not
Mhm.
necessarily processing how does this fit into my life, but rather compartmentalizing. This is where
Yeah.
it happens,
Yeah.
right? And once he met me, I actually, for years, told him, like, you're a great guy, but you're not what I'm looking for. Like, you're just not. I need someone who gets this piece of me. And I used to even pray for him, and I'd be like, God, like, he needs you, but don't do it for me. Like, I'm not that into him. That's literally what I would tell God in my prayers. And what happened was we just kept in touch and we were friends. And he ended up becoming a doctor for the Navy. He was a flight surgeon in the Navy. And literally, his office was in the middle of two men who had faith like mine.
Mm.
And they talked to him, and he saw it in their life and came to it on his own. I mean, also knowing that it was important to me, but
Mhm.
that was there before we got married, although he didn't grow up in it in that way. So when we came
Wow.
into the marriage, we were very much aligned in how we felt and how we wanted to raise kids. And it's been, I mean, like any marriage, it's been a journey. We've done the
Of
work, we've gone
course.
to therapy,
Mhm.
we've had to
Mhm.
reconcile different cultural beliefs for sure.
Sure. Mhm.
But I think the faith was our compass because we're so different in many ways culturally
Mhm.
and in the ways that we grew up. He grew up
Mhm.
very poor, Puerto Rican, the youngest of five boys, and I grew up with two doctor parents, so we saw the world a little differently as well. But our faith has kind of been that, like I said, the compass that has helped us
Mhm.
navigate these things. So that was a good question. No one's ever asked me that before, Kelly.
Oh, good. Well, I
Really
just
good
feel it. I
question.
feel it. I mean, you're doing God's work in the sense that
Mm,
you are educating and radiating hope for people and giving practical tools for people to live their best life. And, kind of segueing into your book,
mm,
that is coming out at the perfect time. I mean, it's the busiest for me in my practice,
yes,
around the
you
holidays
know,
as people start gathering at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and extended families, blended families, families coming
all of it.
together. Where do we spend the holiday expectations, the
That's right.
pressure moms feel, all of it.
Yeah.
And so your book lays out questions that you ask people to reflect on at the end of each chapter, which I think is,
Hmm.
my hope for people listening to this is they get your book and they get their notebook and they are like ready to take on this
Oh,
quarter. Um, but if you can kind of lay out generally what your goal of writing the book, what you want readers to get from it, and how we can show up differently this year, would be
yeah.
really helpful.
Absolutely. And it means a lot that you feel that way about the book because especially as a therapist, I really value your insight and your perspective. So thank you for that. It's a hard book to describe. So I'm going to do my best to describe it.
Okay.
And I've
Yep.
tried to describe it for so many different people and I'm like, there literally is something for everyone. It is funny, it will make you laugh, but there are really some deep and powerful stories, especially some of the interviews I did. I did an interview with my friend who lost her husband suddenly one night in an accident and was left with three kids. So I wanted her voice
Mm,
in talking to people about how to navigate grief. I felt like, you know this, it's personal to you, and I've seen you come out the other side. You talk about it. You can say more than I can about it.
mhm, mhm,
So we cover, family drama and when we get anxious during the holiday and just the overwhelm, like you said, for
mhm,
moms. But I write from a perspective that is both psychologically grounded, but also rooted in my own life experiences, which are funny. When you have four kids, like life is crazy and it's funny, and
mhm,
you know that.
mhm, mhm,
So the goal would be, to give people some perspective when we get caught up in all the comparison and the shoulds and the things we feel like we have to do in the holiday, and we lose our own joy in it while trying to create it for so many people. It's to bring them back to, okay, look, joy doesn't have to be that complex. Here's what it can look like for you day to day. And cumulatively, that makes for a different season.
mhm,
It's not about just the one big moment or the few big moments. And I want women to be able, or any parent or any person
mhm,
who doesn't have joy during the holiday, I want them to find it for themselves, even in micro moments this season, and that impacts our wellness, that impacts our health.
Mhm.
And then also, it was important for me for people not to hand something to them that was prescriptive, like, here's what you need to do, but rather to get in touch with what's most important to them
Mhm.
and them kind of finding their own voice and hearing their own voice so they know what it means to have a meaningful holiday specifically to them. And that's where the questions and reflections come from at the end of the prompt rather than me telling you what to do.
Yeah, a very
So,
strengths perspective, I think,
yes,
as a
yeah.
practicing clinician to say, and look, our profession has changed since we
Mm,
first entered, right? It was like, you're the expert, tell me
right,
what I should do, I'm gonna do it, and that will make me feel better. I mean,
right.
maybe not so, I'm partial to social workers, we practice a little
Yes.
differently.
Yeah, we do.
But
We do.
it is for me, when I have sought expertise, I'm always looking for somebody who's been in the trenches, right? It gives them
Yes.
more
Yeah.
street cred
Sure.
than just book smart. So I think that that is so important to speak about your own experience and what has
Right.
helped you and things that you're doing differently as well
Absolutely.
from the lens of an expert.
And I had to do it differently. I mean, one in this perimenopausal era that I'm in,
Next
uh,
episode, thanks.
right, right. And then starting to have panic attacks after my first book, like I knew, okay, I need to take care of my health. So this has to be done differently. But also then just walking through people in my life that I've had to support during that time, which is also taxing on the
Mhm,
persons doing the caregiving, whether it's an adult or caregiving for a child, parenting.
mhm,
So I wanted to go through the holiday actually having it mean something to me and taking care of my wellness at the same time. And it was so different. And some of those things I carry through the rest of the year now. And I look forward to those little rituals that I've created.
mhm.
The other thing is, I didn't want to give people a to-do list during the busiest time of the year. And to me, handing them a book and saying, read this during the holidays felt
Mhm.
like kind of a big ask. So that's why it's broken up into 31 small chapters, just to give someone a little bit to read every day to help them get perspective and feel a little calmer and laugh a little throughout the whole holiday. And I cover from before Thanksgiving to New Year's Day. So hopefully I've covered everything over 20 years of working with people. It's in
Mhm.
that book. So
Well, and it's a
that's where it came from.
good thing to leave on the table, right?
Mhm.
So when you're
Sure.
making dinner, you can pick up a chapter and read something, or being able to really come up with your own prescription of rituals and things to let go of as well.
Yeah.
Because that's true. We don't want to add more things to people's already busy life because that is too
No.
stressful.
And
Um,
part of it too was if I said if people can read for 5 to 10 minutes a day, it will replace scrolling. And everyone wants to be more present during the holiday. We know, and I talk a little bit about the science behind what happens when we're on screens and our dopamine and how it affects our mood. So
mhm.
this is in some ways a little behavior replacement. Can you
Yes.
read for 5 minutes instead of scroll throughout the holiday
Yes.
and see how you feel at the end of it, whether you start your day or end your day with it?
Mhm.
That's also part of the reason why it's supposed to cover 31 days.
What's your favorite ritual that you do
Oh,
on a daily basis?
yep. That is, I make a little time for quiet in the morning. And what I
Mhm,
started doing during the holidays was I would light a candle and
mhm,
I talk about the energy of a candle and what it actually represents chemically. It's actually releasing potential into motion when we are in the presence of fire. That's what
I
fire
never
is.
knew that.
It's amazing.
I am it's like a seance in my home. I have candles
I
running all the time.
candles,
I didn't know it was
right?
scientifically
It
backed.
is. It is. And I would do it with my Christmas lights on in the morning, but I would find a little time for prayer, meditation, a little reading, a reflection, and
Mhm,
silence. Even 5 minutes of silence. And I'm trying to incorporate 5 minutes of silence a day and extend it. I'm not always good at extending it, but we
mhm.
know the benefits of silence and just being able to hear our own thoughts
Right.
and acknowledge how we're feeling. So that ritual literally takes me 5 to 10 minutes a day. I can do it in five, but it gives me a little time to just center before I run into the day. And once we
Mhm.
start running, we keep running.
Right.
So to have that is something I look forward to. And I do it when my kids have left the house. Now the dog is interrupting the ritual, so I got to figure that one out. But because we got a dog last December, pit bull no
Yes,
less,
yes.
right?
been
Hmm.
quite a journey.
It has. It has. I will not write a book about that one, but
Yes. Well, and
that's one.
you are so candid about your life in terms of
Oh,
just things that you deal with on a daily basis that is so relatable. So I will post how people can find you in the show
thank
notes and
you.
follow
Thank
you.
you,
And
Kelly.
it's just you're so human. And the clips on the Today Show are just great and fun and light and practical. And
Yeah.
so I do think that, being able to pause during the holidays and have some of these rituals can make all the difference.
It does. And
And
cumulatively, right? So
yes.
just having that to look forward to and knowing that, hey, I actually learned about myself during this time, or I did something for myself. And it wasn't just about joy
Mhm.
for everybody else. And when you feel it, I mean, we know emotions are contagious. We
Yes.
look at emotion as a contagion. If
Mhm.
you authentically feel it, people around you will feel it. And you don't necessarily have to do anything to make them feel joy. They'll
We
feel
need to
joy
do
around you.
less.
We,
We need to do less,
I
right?
know. Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
so
Easier
I
said than
think
done.
the
But yes.
call to action for listeners too is, where can you say no? Just as we started
Mm,
this conversation, you
yeah.
modeled saying no, this doesn't work for me right
Hmm.
now
Yep.
when you put a pause on writing the book.
That's right.
And where can we say no during the holidays? And sometimes I hear clients and myself say, "Oh, but it's a tradition and we've done it this way
Yeah.
every year and we have to." And it's like, and nobody likes it and you're anxious and then it creates anxiety for the whole family. And if you need to order dinner for a meal during the holidays, do that. If you want to
That's
do
right.
no gifts during the holidays, do that. I
Right.
mean,
And try it for one holiday and
yeah.
see how it is for you, see how it is for the family and
Mhm.
everybody else. And if it doesn't work, bring it back the next year. But just try it and give yourself that break for 1 year. That's it. Yeah, and a lot of times we know what it is to say no to if you do the thing or you've done the thing, at the end you feel resentful or exhausted or depleted.
Mhm.
That's usually an indication that there was something that necessitated that boundary that
Mhm.
we didn't implement. So
Mhm. Yeah.
I'd work backwards.
And I say, play the tape forward. If I say
Mm,
yes,
yep.
how will this make me feel
Yeah.
at the end of the day?
Oh yeah, we know.
Uh-huh.
Hmm. That's a good
So,
one.
and those are tips that people can use even outside of the holidays. I
All
think we're
year, all
all
year round.
just trying to manage and do our best, and the world
That's
is
right.
flooded right now,
I
with a lot
know.
of chaos. And so it is about, I mean, I just look at all the beautiful things you have behind you: joy, love,
Oh,
your
thank
book.
you.
And a lot of it is just in some of the grounding
Mm,
techniques.
yep.
So
Amen to that.
do your kids laugh at any of these suggestions you make, or do you see that they practice
Oh,
some of them, or
they do, but now they've adopted them. So I would never say to my kids, for I did for a while, I'm like, what are you grateful for? And they would just like roll their eyes.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
then I'd start to say, give me three good things today, because actually the science supports that. Three good things over 30 days every day. It will wire your brain for optimism. So anytime we'd go out to dinner or we're on vacation or wherever we are,
Mhm.
give me
Mhm.
three good things. And I actually forget to say it. And now one of them will bring it up. And they'll bring it up sarcastically, like, tell me three good things, but then we will all do it. They
Mhm.
know
Yeah.
that that is important. And I think they want to hear what other people have to say. Sometimes their responses are sarcastic, but
Mhm.
they still are a part of it. They know it's important. And it does
Mhm.
change the lens in which you look at your day if you're looking for that in your
Absolutely.
day.
Yeah.
So, yeah. They some of the things, yes. And then my oldest daughter, after my first book came out, said, I'm going to write a book about all the things you wrote about in your book that you don't do regularly. I'm like, all right, do it. Do
Challenge
it.
accepted.
I'm
Yeah.
the first to admit it. So it
Oh,
is a struggle for all of us, but we keep trying,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We keep trying.
Where are your parents now?
They live 30 minutes away. Yeah, my dad just had a birthday yesterday.
Oh,
So we do get to see them pretty often, which is nice. And, really treasuring that time now that they're getting older. But they have more energy than I do. So I think they're going to be around.
Well, and that's incredible because I think I messaged you after something I saw you posted and said, next time you go to Sri Lanka, please bring me because that
Yeah,
is
I
on my
know.
bucket list
I
of
know.
places
We
I
got to
would
get
like to
back
visit.
there.
When's the
Yeah.
last time you were there?
Oh, it has really been a long while now because my two youngest kids have never been. So it's been a while. I was pregnant with my third and she's 14. So it's been like 14 or 15 years since
Oh,
I've been.
wow. So
But
there's
I
a
need to
trip in
go
your
back.
future. Okay, just let
Yeah,
me
yeah.
know. Let me
It
know when
is
you're going.
I'm gonna call you and it is such a long trip. And after I did it with two little ones and pregnant, I'm like, I'm not coming back here as beautiful as it is, until all of them are old enough to appreciate it.
Sure.
And my husband's like, this looks just like Puerto Rico. We should just go to Puerto Rico. It's 3 hours. And I'm like,
Love
okay, let's
Puerto
do
Rico.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
do
a
that
little
for
more
now.
manageable as a family of six,
And
for
if we
sure.
run into Bad Bunny, even better. So we'll see.
Nero, you are such a gift.
Oh,
And my hope is that people order your book, All is
thank you.
Calmish, for the holidays, leave a review, and just spread it. Give it to a family member who may need a little more calm this year. And follow Nero on Instagram, where you can see your Today Show clips and the column that you write. And humor is so important when we have some of this heavy stuff to talk about,
Mm.
and you really incorporate that as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. I've loved every minute of this conversation and just being able to see you. And I have so much respect for you. And you're absolutely right. I mean, the work we do is God's work. And anytime we work to bring healing to people and to the world, I believe God is in it and you're right there doing it. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. And the last thing I will say is I still am in awe that we have never met in life, in real life,
Oh, have
IRL.
we not?
We have not. And the connection I feel to
That's
you. So when people,
ridiculous.
when they're, I mean, social media gets a bad rap sometimes, but
Right,
there's also
right.
so much goodness that comes out of it.
Yes,
And
yes, like
like-minded
this.
professionals like
Yes,
this, so much in common.
yes.
And yeah, it feels like you're always close,
Oh,
even
we
though we're so
will.
away.
I
Yeah.
know we have to. And the next time you're in New York, always
Okay.
text me. I
Yeah.
want to make it happen.
Okay.
We're gonna do it, and then we'll post a little video for all of
Yes.
these
A little
people.
inspo.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
And all of those who are listening, don't forget to follow your passion and choose something to make a change just for today.